Hi friends, it's Jess with our Bipolar. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, just a little bit about me. I have bipolar 1 and I was diagnosed 26 years ago when I was a sophomore in college. Today I want to talk a little bit about marriage and if one of the people in that marriage have bipolar disorder, like I do. But before we get into that, I will ask you to subscribe to my channel, like this video, and comment. Let me know what you think about marriage or long-term relationships when one of the people have bipolar disorder. So today is my 14th wedding anniversary with Brian, my husband. So it's kind of looking back, just thinking back a little on our marriage. And you hear that the divorce rate just all across the country is about 40%. But if one person in the marriage has bipolar, the divorce rate is 90%. Yeah. And I can kind of understand why. It can be hard. It can be hard for just the individual who has bipolar to deal with it. But if you're in a marriage, that can be really difficult and it can cause some challenges that might not be there otherwise. So in my marriage to Brian, honestly, I don't think bipolar has had a huge influence. I mean, it has at times, but that's more when I'm having symptoms. So if I'm having depression, mania, psychosis, yes, that is going to cause a lot of problems and just things you have to deal with. And the other person, your spouse, really needs to step in and support you and also do a lot of the things that maybe you were doing before you needed that help. So for me, I actually was able to maintain pretty good stability before I met my husband. So we met back in 2008, and right before that, in 2007, is when I finally got on meds that started working for me. So for me, that was lithium. It may not work for you. Just FYI, I've heard that it only works for about a third of people with bipolar, and there's a genetic component. But so I had been doing better. I was still figuring out lifestyle changes, still a little resisting the fact that I needed to sleep, really regular sleep, and go to bed at a decent time. I was still in my 20s. I was in my late 20s, and I was still in that like party mode and wanting to go out and stay out late and drink and all those things. But when I met Brian, actually really helped me to become more stable with bipolar because he didn't care about going out. Like for him, that didn't matter. He just wanted to spend time with me. And that really helped because my friends were pressuring me to continue that lifestyle and he just didn't care. So it made it easier for me to just kind of move past that, not go out as much, not drink as much. We really knew from the beginning that this was going to be like forever. I know that sounds so cheesy, but we just knew. So we moved in together after about 6 months and we bought our first home together at a year, like just a year of knowing each other. And then we didn't get married for like a few years after we met. We got married in 2011. Yeah, I think people can help you with your stability as well as hurt it. I think it depends on the person. Brian he's a really fun, high energy person, which at times can, if I'm feeling a little close to hypomania, could push it to there, but you have to know that. You have to know what you're like, what your illness is like, and what the person is like who you're with. Brian and I have made a lot of like small concessions, I would call them. We don't have any like huge issues, but in our marriage, like for instance, Brian loves to play music. He's very talented. He has a studio in our house where, he plays guitar, he sings, he plays drums, he records it and does all this mixing and stuff, which I know nothing about. It's very important to him. But for me, sometimes hearing music, especially loud music, is not good for my bipolar. It can push me towards hypomania if it's too much. And also I have migraine, which a lot of people with bipolar also suffer from chronic migraine. So that, is an issue, of course, loud music. So we have to work around each other. Like he'll try to play music when I'm not home, or he'll just play it a little lower, or he'll ask me like, right now, can I play it louder? Would that be okay? And I'll say, sometimes I'll say no, sometimes I'll say yes. But we love each other and we want to work around each other. Like it's the same with him watching movies. Like I don't want to watch scary movies. I don't want to watch horror movies. I don't want to watch action movies because it's all too kind of invigorating for me. It's just too risky. And so he knows that, and he tries to not ask me to watch those movies, or if he really wants me to watch something, he'll explain why, and I'll see if I can. But we do have kind of these boundaries in place. Like I know these sound like small things, but there's also big things. So then there are times when I'm actually having symptoms. Like I said, I don't have the really major extreme highs and lows, but I have gone through depression in our marriage. I've gone through hypomania, and usually I get mixed hypomania. So it's like a mix of depression and hypomania. So you have the really high energy and maybe racing thoughts. You might be hypersexual, but you also have this extreme irritability, and you might also feel kind of down. You might be having like thoughts of wanting to end your life. I've definitely gone through that. So what will happen is if I'm starting to have symptoms, we have to have really good communication. And I have to let him know sometimes. Sometimes he can tell, sometimes he can't. So we'll try to let him know and say, I'm getting close to depression or hypomania. And I tell him what I need. Like I need time to myself. I need to be in a quiet house. If that's not possible, I may leave briefly, for a day or two, or whatever it is, and go somewhere where I can be quiet. Or if it's during the day, maybe I'll go to a park. I'll take time off work, whatever it is. Brian, at that point, he knows it is critical to do whatever I need to do and to enable that to happen, to support me. Because if I'm stepping away, okay, who's making dinner? Who's taking care of our daughter? Who's taking her to school? Tons of other things. Who's taking her to activities? All that stuff. It has to be taken care of. And he knows that this is not the time to complain or push me to do things. This is the time where, okay, we're hunkering down. We are going to make sure that my symptoms don't get worse and also don't last longer than they need to. Because if we really hunker down, we can make sure that the symptoms don't become prolonged. And he's really good at doing that. And so you need someone who's truly your partner in your bipolar disorder, who is supportive, and also who, like Brian, is proud of me. And he's proud of me for the way I handle bipolar. And he's told me before, but I also see it. Like it's an obvious thing. And that makes me feel really good because this is hard. It's hard to always do the right thing. And I don't always do the right thing with bipolar. I make mistakes. I stay up late sometimes and I know I shouldn't, or I'm not exercising enough, or I forget to take my meds. I mean, I don't forget that often, but it does happen. And for me, just missing one night can cause symptoms. So he knows how hard I work at this, and he is proud of me, and like he'll talk me up to people. And because I'm so public, like that's totally fine by me to talk about me having bipolar. I don't know, it adds this extra layer to our marriage that really is like an extra level of support and just makes me feel good about myself. And you want someone who makes you feel good about yourself. Like if there was no bipolar, if I didn't have a mental illness, I just know that there's this person who just thinks the best of me. And I don't even think I'm the best person most of the time, but he sees me in this light, like in the best possible way. He sees the best in me all the time. You know, we've been through a lot just this past year of our marriage. You might have seen that Brian has a spinal cord tumor. He was born with it. It's not cancer. He had to get surgery in the fall, and this was a really major surgery, and he is still recovering. It's now about 4 months later. It'll take a year for him to fully recover. So I had to become a caregiver, which I didn't know how bipolar would react to that. Like, can I handle this? And you know, I've done pretty good. Like, it hasn't been perfect. I did go into some depression around the holidays. I will do whatever I can to be a supportive wife, just to be a supportive partner to him. And this is what I needed to do. And it was hard, but I could fall on my stability. I already was very stable with bipolar. And luckily, at this point in my life, I mostly am. You know, my 20s were a different story. But at this point, being 45, yeah, I've found stability for the most part. And it's never going to be perfect. I feel like I live a pretty good life, and having Brian by my side makes it so much better. All right, well, thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.